Okay, good afternoon. I'm here to talk to you about entomophagy. Okay, that's my speech today. For starters, I want everybody to kind of close your eyes and envision these flavors that I'm gonna give you. Okay, sunflower seeds, okay. Toasted avocado, bacon soup, almonds, grasshopper. Now, sorry about that last one. I know that the Americans aren't typically predisposed to eating crickets or eating insects or anything like that. That's what entomophagy is, the Western term for eating insects. It's a very popular practice around the globe, but it's not really used very much here. And today I'm going to try and persuade y'all to sort of change your stance on that issue, on thinking of insects as yucky instead of, as nutritious and tasteful and beneficial as they are. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some of the nutritional benefits of food, benefits of insects versus some of the other foods that you're accustomed to. I'm also going to talk to you about the economic and the environmental benefits of eating insects and using insects as a food source. And then I'm going to dispel some of the myths about insects as being unclean and bad for you. So let's get right onto it and dig right into the subject. Insects, bugs, are a nutritional powerhouse. According to the USDA SR25 nutritional composition and safety aspects of edible insects, crickets per 200 calorie serving have 31 grams of protein, 8 grams of fat, 2 grams of saturated fat, almost 2 grams of omega-3, and 7 grams of fiber. Now, compared to beef only has 22 grams of protein versus 31 in the crickets, 11 grams of fat, 4 grams of saturated fat, almost no omega-3, and 0 fiber whatsoever. That's a pretty big jump there between the crickets and the beef, and that's just 200 calories serving, which is about 200 grams of crickets and about 100 grams of beef. So, like, crickets have half the calories of beef in addition to all of that. Now, compared to salmon, because beef, that's not a really good meat for you anyway, right? But salmon's a really good meat for you, right? Well, salmon only has 20 grams of protein. Crickets have 31, so that's more than the salmon. They have 13 grams of fat versus 8 grams of fat in the cricket. 3 grams of saturated fat. The crickets have almost as much omega-3 as the salmon, and the salmon still has no fiber in addition to all that. Well, more than the omega-3 and the fiber and the protein. In fact, the crickets have more than any other kind of meat. They are also rich in vitamins and minerals. According to the Food and Agricultural Division of the UN, I can't remember what it's called. The Food and Agricultural Organization of the UN. Thank you. The vitamins B1, thiamine, range from like 0.1 grams to 4 grams per 100 grams of dry insect material. That's 25 times as much as whole wheat bread. 25 times as much thiamine, B1, in crickets as whole bread. The riboflavin, vitamin B2, has 0.11 grams to 9 grams per 100 grams of dry insect material, which is 47 times more than whole wheat. That's like having one piece of cricket bread. One piece of cricket bread is equivalent to a whole loaf of whole wheat bread for vitamins. And for minerals, they're still doing good there. The locusts have 50% to 3 times as much iron as beef. And the palm weevil larva has 2 times as much zinc as beef. And iron and zinc deficiencies are labeled among the FAO as some of the some of the root causes for a bunch of other problems that people are having today, like dehydration and all that kind of stuff. So they're good for you. They're also good for the environment. Insects convert protein and food. Oh my goodness! Insects convert protein to food in a much more efficient manner. They use about 1/3 of the food as beef. They use less land than beef and livestock. They grow and reproduce at a higher rate, so they can produce more of them as versus livestock. And they use less greenhouse, or they produce less greenhouse gases than beef for livestock. Y'all heard about them gassy cows causing the end of the world. According to Ohio State entomology fact sheets, it says, if Americans could tolerate more insects than what they eat, farmers could significantly reduce the amount of pesticides each year. Think about that. You're not only do they take less land and they take less food and they produce less waste, they also They also cause less pollution in other foods like fruits and vegetables because they don't have to spray for insects as much. But if they're good for you and they're good for the environment, why don't people eat it? Because they consider them unclean, right? Let's see. Well, all food can have an adverse effects on your health. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has some things to say about that, like raw and undercooked meat can contain E. coli, salmonella, and all sorts of other deadly bacteria if it's not prepared properly. Raw and undercooked pork can contain parasites. Fish has high concentrations of toxins if not prepared and stored correctly. And mushrooms and fruits and vegetables can contain the pesticides that I just mentioned before. Insects are not completely risk-free. The wild harvested ones can have pesticides just like the vegetables because they're eating the vegetables. But if you obtain them from a reputable source, the chances of that are negligible. There's not going to happen. And if we could tolerate the insects, there would be less pesticides on the plants and animals, and so less pesticides on the insects too. An author by the name of Sandy John had a New York Times article that had it said insects carry significant amount of microbes, but no human pathogens like E. coli or salmonella. They have none of those that beef has. So there's no risk of that. They do dry them to prevent some of the other microbes from producing and stuff like that. And then you cook them to prevent anything else, just like beef and pork together. Some of them are also poisonous, but some mushrooms and other plants are poisonous, and compared to those, most of the brightly colored insects are poisonous. So you can easily tell which ones are the poisonous ones because they show off. Whereas plants, you don't always know which ones are poisonous, especially mushrooms. You can't always tell which ones of those are poisonous. So in short, insects are good for you. Eating them is economical, sustainable, environmentally sound farming practice that uses less space, produces less waste than current sources of food, and eating insects is no more harmful than any other kind of food you could eat. So as long as it's safely prepared, you could say that about every other kind of protein. Especially beef, pork, and egg, all which run a high risk of foodborne illness and have enough to have a cautionary level printed from labels to restaurant menus and everything else. And none of those have the vitamins and minerals that insects do. So remember those flavors that I asked you to envision earlier. Well, sunflower seeds taste like dry roasted crickets. And katydids are what tastes like toasted avocado. The palm weaver grubs taste like bacon soup. And ants have a sweet and nutty flavor like almonds. So when you see insects listed on the ingredients of a product from now on, I want you to think of those flavors and all the beneficial, contribution that insects provide to the environment and to nutrition and everything else. Thank you very much.